everyone. Welcome to this inspiration session. My name is Neslie Attar-Goode. I will be your host and your moderator today. I am a Lifecycle and Services Consultant in telecommunication and Motorola Solutions, and I am based in Dubai in the UAE. I also co-lead the SWE EMEA chapter within my company, driving its presence here in EMEA. And I am super passionate about the personal journeys and the development of women in general. So I'm delighted to welcome our guest speaker today, Stacy Mallon, site lead of the Global Capability Centers at Wolfspeed. And to learn more about our backgrounds, you can refer to the links in the chat. I think we have some nice facilitator who are going to be helping today and giving you lots of good links to click on today. So just go there. As we go through the session, so as I said just earlier, feel free to share your questions as we go, your comments, your experience, your ideas, but please let's keep it in the chat. We won't take any audio comments, as I said, in the interest of time management. Otherwise, we won't have time to really have a nice interview of Stacy and also maybe some good networking moments as well between yourselves. So I have some questions for Stacy to get us started. After that, we'll have a live Q&A to address your questions, your remarks. And then we'll move to a breakout room. So then you can have a bit of networking, exchange ideas with one another, and so on. So Stacy, welcome. Thank you for joining us today. We've got loads to discuss. And so let's get started. And actually, I'm super excited to talk to you again because we already met last year, I believe, during a SWE event, where we not only got the opportunity to connect and enhance our leadership skills and our networking skills, but if I remember, we also participated into a workshop on how to prevent burnout and maintain healthy work-life balance. And if I remember right, it was coming at quite a good time in your career. You were going through some a lot of changes in your company. So can you tell us about your current role, how you got there, and actually maybe how you navigated that phase?
Yes, sure. Thank you, Neslie. Hi, everyone. It's so nice to be here today. And I was very excited when Neslie and I first joined our first session to talk about what we were going to talk about today. And we realized who each other was and the fact that we had met each other, I think going back probably 12 months ago now, Neslie, right? Back in Dublin, actually. Roughly. So very close for me, a little bit more of a journey for you. And yeah, I think the fact that, it just shows, I suppose, the community that this SWE community actually, kind of builds and helps to bring, us females together, and the fact that we do meet, for again and again at different things. So I'm very excited to be here today and very excited to chat to everyone. So as you mentioned, my role is I'm the site lead for our Global Capability Centre at Wolfspeed. I'm based in Belfast in Northern Ireland. Hopefully everyone can understand the accent. I did have a little joke with the team to say, but potentially might need subtitles for today, but I will try and speak slow so everyone can understand the Northern Irish accent. I've been with Wolfspeed for almost 4 years. I actually joined the company as our very, very first employee here in Northern Ireland. My role at the time, and I guess the mandate from the company at the time, was we want to do something outside of the US. We want to build a capability center outside of the US, and we're going to hire you and we're going to ask you to do it. So that's pretty much the instructions that I got when I joined the company. Very much focused, though, I think, on the technology side of things. So with a goal to potentially move in, more of our shared services type back office operations to Northern Ireland at some point. But my first 4 years here has really been in the tech space. So IT teams, I do have a technical background. So I'll try not to spend all of the time talking about my background, but just a quick whirlwind of where I came from and I suppose how I've come to this role. I started off as a software engineer, actually. So I did a master's degree at Queen's University in Belfast in mathematics and computer science. And from there, moved into software development in financial services. So most of my career before Wolfspeed was spent in that industry, so in fintech. I moved from the software space more into managed services infrastructure type of role, project management, kind of I guess a very diverse set of roles over my career, until my last role before I joined Wolfspeed, which was director of infrastructure and security at a company called Vela, who were part of the New York Stock Exchange. So I was actually at that company for 10 years. And over that time, we were owned by private equity, so lots and lots of M&A activity. And I ran the global team that looked after all of our infrastructure and all of our cybersecurity. So a very exciting role. And a lot of people always ask, well, why did you move from something like that, which seems like quite a successful role, to do what you're doing right now, which again, being that first person, in this location, having no one else in my time zone when I joined the company. Why would you ever do that? I think, we will probably talk a little bit about some of this today as we go through, maybe Neslie, some of the questions, but I think for me, it really was, it's a challenge. It's something completely different. I felt like it was almost what my whole career had built up to, that I was going to take on this challenge of building teams, hopefully building diverse teams, hopefully being successful in that, but still able to work in the technology space and for a company like Wolfspeed. So for those that don't know what we do, we are a US semiconductor manufacturing company. So we are headquartered in Durham in North Carolina. And again, that was a very different industry for me. So manufacturing is not a space that, I had a lot of experience in, to be honest, before I joined the Wolfspeed company. And again, it was more of a learning curve, so something very different. I always believe that, especially in the technology space and in STEM type roles, you can jump between different industries and get experience in different industries and bring that technical background with you. And actually having that diversity of different industries gives different perspectives, so you can bring something else to the table that potentially someone that's worked in that kind of semiconductor space for many years wouldn't necessarily have thought of. So that's some of the thinking and the perspectives that I brought to my role around how we recruit people and how we built some of our teams. But yeah, that takes me up, Neslie, to where I am today with Wolfspeed and where we are so far.
Yeah, that is just super inspiring, and it's actually, yeah, quite amazing that you did do this jump, between
Yeah.
after a 10 years career. So that's really good. But as you said, it's these skills that we acquire in those
Mhm.
big jobs, they are completely transferable to other industries, and yeah, and having the right challenges is always what just give us fuel to just be successful. So
Yes.
really great, really great. So, what do you think are the characteristics of effective leadership in
Mhm.
engineering and in
Mhm.
tech environment, in
Mhm.
Europe in particular? Not
Sure.
that it will change very much globally, but what do you think about that?
Yeah. So I think when I had started my role at Wolfspeed, I probably would have given a very different answer to what I would talk about today, given the experience that I've had. I really do think that, I have learned more in the last 4 years than probably all of my career put together. And for me, one of the key things and the key characteristics of anyone in leadership is really being able to set the vision. Your role is to direct the teams, it's to direct the people, and it's to be able to set that vision in a clear way that people are able to follow that. So you almost jump from I'm going to do everything, right? I'm going to do the work, I'm going to be part of the team and be the person that's implementing, to almost kind of stepping back a little bit and saying, okay, here's what I would like to see, here is what this vision looks like. And I think, having had my experience, it was very easy in the early days, I think, to say, okay, well, I'm just going to be part of the team. It's a very small team, so I'm just part of that. I think now I much more see my role as that visionary leader. I would kind of see myself as someone that really looks at, okay, what's the bigger picture? and try to be more of a motivational leader, I suppose. The other thing that is extremely important, and for those who may have heard me talk at maybe one of the SWE conferences before, I am a big believer in understanding why you do things. Again, this was just through, kind of almost painful experience, to be honest, but sometimes we learn from those painful times more than the successes, right? Understanding why you do things is key. I think that is critical. If you do not have that understanding, it's very difficult to achieve anything. So having the vision, but then understanding why you have that vision and being able to communicate that to people, really are the things that you really should focus on. And also I think being authentic. We actually had quite a few conversations with my team this week around authenticity. I think, you can have the vision, you can put together a why you want to go do something, but if it's not what you truly believe in and you're not being authentic in how you communicate that, I think people pick up on that. And then they also say, well, why would I go, work with that person? Why would I join that company? Why would I go do, what they're asking me to do if they clearly don't believe in that themselves? So I think it's, when I do anything, it's really with passion, and it's with making sure that I'm trying to be as authentic as I possibly can when I'm speaking to my teams. The other thing, Neslie, I think, and this is actually something that's come around quite recently, and probably the last time we met, it was something that I was really struggling with, resiliency. So being able to be resilient, to build that resiliency, and it takes experience. You don't just go into your role and say, okay, well, I'm resilient, so I'm going to be able to get through this. It's actually not until you experience some of those very difficult situations and those difficult times that you can build that. And I think, at Wolfspeed, and definitely, kind of in my role, at least over the last kind of 24 to 18 months, that's something that I have had to build and I've had to grow in order to really continue, I suppose, in my role, and to be adaptable as well. So I think as leaders, sometimes we think, well, we've learned everything we needed to learn. We're in the position that we're in because we've had all of this experience through our career, and I'm just going to go tell people how to do things now. And that's really not how I like to work. I don't think that that's how you build successful teams. I think as leaders, we should be adaptable. And I'm going to talk a little bit about learning as well as we go through, because I think that's also important. But that resiliency piece around, being able to withstand the difficult times. And sometimes, you do need to accept that, this is going to fail and you have to be okay with it. But as long as you can fail fast and move on from there. So yeah, I think those are probably Neslie, and I guess to bring the kind of the European part of it into that is, we do have different cultures, and across Europe we have different cultures in different places. I deal with that all of the time, with running the Northern Ireland office within a global company, thinking about how does that culture differ from other areas. So I think from a European standpoint, we actually are very resilient people, just generally. So it comes naturally to us. Hopefully everyone else agrees with that, but please add some comments if not. But I think that that's something that we definitely, a characteristic that we definitely bring. But like I said, it's something I believe that you can only really build properly once you do go through those difficult times, and understand when you come out the other side of those that actually there was a reason probably for what happened, and the fact that you've really built up and been able to adapt and change. Maybe it's your leadership style, maybe it's your communication, and maybe it's just how you work with some people, but there was a reason for that, and
yeah,
you've learned from it.
as you said, authenticity, that's also another
Yes,
thing which is very
yes.
important. You need to be authentic for people to follow you. And I will add maybe to that, maybe having also in terms of being a leadership in the tech environment is also to have to be authentic, or to be relatable. You need also to have a bit of a tech background as well, so that you
Yes.
can people can kind of like project themselves into what they see when they see you as well. So
Absolutely. And I think, Neslie, on that point, this is why I really felt like even at the start of my career, and I don't think at the start of my career I thought I knew, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I just knew I wanted to be involved in technology in some way. I really loved what I did at at university. I loved maths, I loved computer science, and I think I really just love to solve problems. So I just wanted to continue to do that. But yeah, I think as you continue in your career, kind of from that maybe more technical side into leadership, sometimes there is a little bit of a struggle there to understand, okay, should I give up the technical side? But I do think having that technical background to start with is extremely important, because then you understand maybe some of the challenges that those more junior members of your team were having. And like you said, you can relate to those. Yeah.
Absolutely. Great. Well, I think you've touched on a few of those, but what will you say are some key competencies for leaders in multinational organizations? So maybe
Sure.
more looking into that side of the of the
Yeah.
of the of the question.
Yeah, I think for that, very much, I would probably start off with that, kind of cross-cultural type leadership, right? So being aware of, and again, maybe that's actually you go back to being self-aware to start with before you're aware of other cultures. You must be aware of yourself, and being able to understand, kind of what makes you a leader, what characteristics you have, what leadership style you have, and what you would like to have. But because we're always working, I think, to improve ourselves, right? We're not always perfect and never will be. But for me, reflection very much helps with that. So when I am having maybe a difficult conversation with someone, or even when we've had a really good, we actually have had a successful project delivered, we will always do, and I will always run my teams in a way that we will always reflect back. So whether that's through a retrospective, if you're working in a more agile way in the technical world, or whether it's just your own personal reflection at the end of every week, thinking about, okay, what worked well this week, what didn't work well, and how do I learn from that? So being self-aware, so that then you can understand other cultures as well. So I guess in a multinational organization, you're going to be dealing with lots of different people from lots of different time zones, lots of different backgrounds, and hopefully you have a very diverse workforce. So understanding that people are different, understanding that there are reasons for those differences, and I think taking all of that into consideration, and when you're building your teams, when you're running your teams. For me, I really do like to have diverse teams. I think it's important that you bring different perspectives. If everyone thought the same way, then we would never achieve anything. So, and we would never innovate. We would never create new products, new technologies. So I think those are probably the most important things. Along with, I do believe that kind of thought leadership, critical thinking is also very important. As a leader, it's important that you can kind of bring things together, that you can look at different problems and maybe find trends there that others may not have, or may not be able to, because they haven't had the experience, or because maybe they're just not in the position to have all of the context. I think in a leadership role, it is extremely important that you're able to bring some of that, and also bring maybe some of the others, the rest of the team, along with you, by providing the opportunities for them to also start to think in that way and use critical thinking in their day to day.
Absolutely. So do you have an example then on how a diverse team achieved great results, for example, in your case?
Yeah, so I suppose, Neslie, I'm going to just talk about my current teams, to be honest, because I feel like that honestly has been the most successful part of my career so far. It definitely the most challenging, but the team, the teams, so it's multiple teams that we have in Northern Ireland as part of the Wolfspeed organization, are fantastic. Northern Ireland is a small place, so the diversity can mean something different, I think, here is to maybe other parts of Europe and other parts of the world, but at the same time, people are coming from very different backgrounds, not necessarily a manufacturing background in some cases, not necessarily, they didn't maybe get into technology, or they didn't get to where they are in their career from a very straightforward path, right? They may have done something very different and then decided later in life that that's something that they wanted to do. So we've got a mix of people, from senior people to junior people who are just starting in their career. And I believe when you can build teams like that, that's when you have the most success. Like I said, I think those different perspectives really allow you to get those successful results. But also, that person who's very junior, they will have had a different background, a different different exposure to different things than maybe someone who's worked in the industry for 30 years. And they will bring those ideas to the table when you've got that team working together. So as long as you, I think, as in a leadership position, it's very important that, you bring the team together, but then you empower the team, right, to go do the work, you give them the ownership and the accountability to solve the problem.
So talking about that, then how do you stay connected with or inspire the more junior colleagues or people in your team? Is that like, do you do anything special for to get them, like engaged?
Yes, I'm very passionate about junior members of the team, Neslie. I had a very good experience when I was kind of first coming out and graduating from university, and even before that. So, in Northern Ireland and the UK, like other parts of Europe, when you go through university, in some cases you have the option to take on a placement, an internship, so an industry. I had a
Huh?
very good experience when I did that. So I worked for a local company actually. So in Northern Ireland, a local software company, a telecommunication company at the time. But I was given experience in all areas of IT. So I wasn't just brought into the company as a junior person and given one project or one task to do. That company allowed me to get experience working with customers. They allowed me to work on code. They allowed me to, test code, and they allowed me to look at, okay, we have a problem. How do we solve that problem? So I think from start to finish, if you think about how technology works and how you solve those problems using technology and develop new systems and applications, I had exposure to that in my internship. That was for me the most important part of, probably got me started, I suppose, in a successful path in my career, because it allowed me to see there's not just this one place that you go work, and you don't just have to be a software developer, or you don't just have to be an engineer that works on the manufacturing floor, that you can get involved in many different places. So that was quite a surprise. I suppose I didn't really understand that before I had that experience. So given that I had that, I really want to give others that. So, we have a very successful early in career program at Wolfspeed. The company itself is very passionate about those early in career junior colleagues, which is honestly one of the reasons why, I joined as well. That was a big part of my early day conversations around, okay, if I take this role, how do you feel about this? And the company were extremely supportive. So, having those opportunities to, I suppose, give other young people opportunities that they may not get elsewhere is extremely important to me. So we do that, but also, we have company events, and I do skip levels with the team. So try to stay, I suppose, as connected as possible. We encourage our more junior members of staff to take part in networking events, to speak at conferences, and I will always try and attend those and help coach and mentor as much as possible. So yeah, I think as a company we do quite a lot in that space, and it is very important that I can get involved in it as much as I am allowed to.
It's excellent. I totally relate to that. I also did my intern. I had a great experience doing my
Mhm.
internship as well. And I was given the opportunity to just, jump into things that I would never have done before. The
Right.
level of trust,
Yes.
it's good, in a safe environment, but you give people some challenges with a safety net, and
Exactly.
it's a great way to get them motivated. And to be honest, I'm still in the same company that I did my internship in, because I think for one of the reason is exactly that, is because I felt that I was given, the right challenges and the
Right.
right trusts, even from a very young age. So I totally relate, and it's nice to
Yeah.
know that Wolfspeed is on board with that. So your site is in Belfast and in Northern
Hmm.
Ireland. So
Hmm.
so it's not actually the place that we immediately,
Hmm.
which immediately comes to mind when we think, okay, where are we going to build our STEM facility? So
Yeah.
why would you say it's the right place then at the moment, or
Yeah.
why would other companies consider the
Sure.
location?
Sure. Yeah, and Nestle, that is a really valid point. I think, a lot of companies and a lot of people probably, don't know very much about Northern Ireland. It's a very small location, obviously on the island of Ireland, but and part of Europe, but definitely a very small part. Uh, I would say though the kind of the any the STEM opportunities and technology in general, it's a space that Northern Ireland has very much excelled in the last 20 to 25 years. When I graduated from university, there were no opportunities in Northern Ireland. I actually moved to London as part of my with my first role, and worked in the financial services industry in technology, but there were very, very few opportunities. And a lot of people, a lot of my friends, a lot of people that I knew at that time did the very same thing because there were not those opportunities. That has completely changed in the last 25 years. We see a lot of companies investing in Northern Ireland. We see a lot of big multinational companies setting up offices here, entities here, building teams here. So that's opened up, of course, lots and lots of opportunities for lots of people. A lot of people who potentially had maybe moved away from the region, maybe to other parts of the UK or other parts of Europe, have come back. And I think that experience that's come back has then allowed even more companies to come and invest because there's even more talent. And what we see right now, Neslie, is that there is a high availability of talent. And I think that is the main reason that companies do invest. There's a highly skilled workforce. And also two very, very good universities where you've got that pipeline of really talented graduates coming out of those universities every single year. And hopefully now not leaving Northern Ireland to go somewhere else to really start their career and grow their career, but stay here. Yeah. So I think that really is what attracts companies. Competitive cost, of course, is part of that conversation. That's something as well that's taken into consideration. We talk about it like a lot. I would spend a lot of my time talking with other companies who are thinking about investing in Northern Ireland just because of the fact that our company has done that, and having these very same conversations about, well, why did you do it? What did you learn? What were the challenges? So, and a lot of people, I think, who are in a similar position to me in different companies in the region would do the same thing, because it's important for us that we build the economy here and that we have, that we contribute to that. So that leads me on then to talk about the network, and even I think the advantage to the small place and to the Northern Ireland being a small place is the fact that you have a really, really good network of people. And you can build that network, and that has very much helped me in my career. And I think that also adds to the attraction of the area and the region, and why it's really important for companies to come to Northern Ireland and to really experience that, I think, for themselves as well. So yeah, we've seen a lot of inward investment, I would say, over the last kind of 2 decades that has led to an influx of companies coming to Northern Ireland, but also then obviously our growth in the opportunities that exist for the workforce here.
Wow, that's like very, very insightful. I would not have thought that, especially the fact that you're trying to really retain your talent from universities and
Yes,
then, and have your pipeline. It's
yes,
quite amazing actually. So talking about networking and
yes,
and that type of stuff as well. I just wanted to highlight as well that we have the We Local conference coming up next year on
yes.
the 23rd and 24th of April, if I'm not wrong, in Dublin. So for everyone, if you want to come meet Stacy and a lot of really interesting people from Northern Ireland and other places in Europe, it's a great opportunity to combine the trip and potentially give a little visit to Belfast as well, actually, because it's not very far. So that will be a very good thing to do. So I might plan that, Stacy. I'll come and say hello.
Absolutely, Nestle. I hope we can meet in Dublin again or in Belfast. Either are
Or
good.
in
So
Belfast.
yes.
Exactly. Exactly. Great, great. Okay, so let's see what else could we go through. I think we're yeah, so maybe we can go in one more question before we go to the live questions from the audience. So for everyone in the audience, if you have questions for Stacy, please use the chat. Don't hesitate. Keep them coming, and we'll answer them in a few minutes. So what knowledge and skills would you recommend early career STEM professional to focus on?
Yeah, I actually had quite a long think about this question, Neslie, because I think this is an ever-changing landscape, especially with, the introduction of AI, right? And obviously AI has been around for a while, but I think now it's really starting to potentially
Absolutely.
impact how we work. I still very much believe, though, that that will be those types of tools, and AI just in general can very much be used as an accelerator in many cases, but I do believe that having a strong technical foundation is still extremely important. So regardless of what industry you want to work in, or maybe what field you decide that is right for you, whatever the technical skills that would for that field, or the relevant technical skills for that field are, those are the things that you should focus on. Make sure you have that, because even if you're using an AI tool to really help you in your day-to-day with your role, you still need to understand what that is doing, and you still need to have that capability. So I think that's number one. The second is data. So being, kind of data capable is perhaps how I would say, or how I would word it. Being able to understand and interpret data in the right way. I think this is going to become more and more important, especially with the introduction of more AI into companies, where those types of tools and maybe any automation is not going to be successful if you don't understand the data that you're being given. So you need to, to use any of those tools, having the right context is extremely important. So the technical skills along with the data. And then the third thing is continuing to have a learning mindset. So even though, you might be finished with your degree path, be finished with whatever type of learning that you're going through right now, you're only getting started really in your career. So having that kind of openness to, I can learn from anyone. And I genuinely do believe this, that even the most junior members of our staff, I believe I can learn from something from them every single day. So open yourself up to that, and kind of have that mindset of, I want to challenge myself. I want to learn new things. But with a solid foundation, I think is going to be really important for anyone thinking of a career in STEM. Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. I agree. So keeping, having a development plan forever, which
Yes.
change obviously,
Yes.
but from the day one, and then
Yeah.
continuing
Yeah.
having that on your minds. And yeah, and when you talked about AI also earlier, I will say, yeah, you do need to use your brain and analyze what this is giving you, because
Yes.
otherwise it
Yeah.
doesn't work otherwise. Yeah, so
Uh-huh.
that's totally
Exactly.
okay. So thank you, Stacy. So we have time now for some questions from the audience. So let's have a look at what we have. So we have a question here from Loredana. So you mentioned exploring various aspects of your role, demonstrating accountability and capability. Yet, have you ever felt that your competence kept you in roles that serves more your manager's needs rather than allowing you to move into position that would have really marked a true step forward in your growth?
Mm.
And if so, how did you break that dynamic? How did you break out of this?
Yeah, sure. That's a very good question. I
Mhm.
think, yes, I have for sure felt like this before. And I think as you in a role, if you're very successful and you're very good at your job and you're good at what you do every day, there is a risk that that's going to happen, right? Your manager's going to realize, well, Lauren is really good at what she does every day, so I am going to keep her there because that makes my life easier, right? And she's doing a good job, but we don't want to push her too hard, because that might mean that, well, I will lose that in my team, and maybe I have to take that on, or I have to train someone else to do that role. So absolutely, I think that's a risk, and that is something that I've experienced before. I think, though, how I've probably resolved that is, making sure you have a good relationship with your manager first off, having that very transparent conversation with them to say, look, I want to add value. I want to continue to, help you, help the company, help the team, but I also have my own career aspirations, and here is what they are. And I think being honest with people usually starts the conversation possibly your manager doesn't realize that you have those, right? So they maybe think, well, she's happy in what she does every day and she's very good at it. So she just wants to continue doing that. So I think start with the conversation. If that doesn't go anywhere, then I think, that's a different that's a different type of dilemma that you're in then. And then becomes a different type of problem that maybe you need to escalate and kind of beyond that. But I do see it, and I've had this experience myself where when I've went to my manager and had that conversation with them, usually your manager will want you to be successful, and they will work with you to maybe either transition that work to someone else, or actually you continue to do that while taking on more and challenging yourself and maybe a stretch goal, something like that.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think if you're a good manager and a good
Mhm.
leader,
Mhm.
your aim will be actually for this person to stay in the company, not to stay
Exactly.
in your team, yeah, but to bring all
Exactly.
the value, especially if it's a
Mhm.
very
Mhm.
competent
Yeah.
person. So this is
And
what you want. So
And also, Neslie, on that, and if I flip that and think about that from the leadership perspective, I also say this to my team all of the time. You want that person to stay in your company, but if at the time your company doesn't have an opportunity for that person and it isn't the right fit, and I have had lots of experience of this, then as a leader, I feel like if you're doing your role in the right way, then if that person moves something to somewhere else and they get a bigger opportunity, a better opportunity, and you've contributed to that, then it's also a success.
so success. I totally agree. I totally agree. So yeah. Good, good, good. Okay, so we have another question from Laura. So she says, "Hi Stacy, you have talked a lot about how you mentioned your value diversity in junior associates. What do you think organizations and companies can do better to make sure those diverse voices and opinions are actually heard and developed into future leaders?"
Okay. Yeah. So I think maybe I can talk a little bit about what we do at Wolfspeed, and then maybe that's some suggestions that people can take away. Um, we tend to bring in our junior staff, but also kind of give them a voice. So they're not just junior members of staff; they are part of a team. Typically, when we do hire, maybe kind of some of the more juniors, and they come in and they may just have graduated from university, we will put them through a program, in the first few weeks of joining Wolfspeed. They learn a little bit about the company, they learn about, kind of just what we do. But then very, very quickly, we move them into their team. And when they're in their teams, they are treated like any other member of staff. They're given goals. They're expected to, kind of contribute to the team pretty much as quickly as they possibly can. And I honestly think that that's probably the most important, that's the most important way of allowing those junior members to feel like they do have a voice, and that they can contribute as quickly as possible. We also have lots of different groups at Wolfspeed that people can join. So especially we have an early in career group for maybe some of the more junior members, where they can potentially, come together and they can talk a little bit about their experience. They're in different teams. They're also in different locations. So this is global. They could be, someone who's based in North Carolina, someone who's based in Northern Ireland, and then someone who's also based out in Ipoh in Malaysia. So, you've got people from different backgrounds coming together to have conversations about their experiences, which I feel is very helpful, giving people the forum to be able to go do that. We've got lots of other groups as well that people join, and we encourage. I think, from a junior, and if we're just talking generally about a diverse workforce, we encourage people, to also reach out beyond Wolfspeed to other people at other companies, to join groups, to have a network, to have a mentor. Especially I think in the early days, mentorship is extremely important. So that you do get the perspective of outside of the company as well, because I think sometimes when you're in your bubble in your company, a situation that seems very difficult and very bad in your team, when you talk to others outside, and I think this is maybe a perfect opportunity to talk a little bit about SWE. That's what this community is all about, right?
I was just going to say
Yeah.
that actually, yeah. I was just going to say
Right.
you don't have to be mentored actually
Yes.
in the company. You just
Yes.
talking to someone at SWE with their mentorship
Exactly.
program is doing a
Exactly.
great job on that.
So,
Absolutely.
so SWE is I think having these types of connections, and we've talked about it before, but I think the fact that you and I, Neslie, have already got a relationship,
Yeah,
and that we've met before, that just proves the point of in reaching out. Having a network is extremely important, regardless, I think, of the point of the career that you're in. Yeah, yeah.
absolutely. Or
Mhm.
your age, or
Or
absolutely,
yeah, or your background, or any
or
of
your
those.
background. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
Excellent. So thank you, Stacy. So we have time for one more question, I think.
Sure.
So from Piali. So how can we collectively challenge lingering stereotypes in technical spaces, particularly the perception held on by some male colleagues that women are less capable in technical roles? What are some effective ways to address this bias constructively and foster a more inclusive mindset?
Hmm. Yeah, and I think, and we mentioned SWE already. I think, as a community, this is, a big part of, what we try to do here, right? Is to how do we change the mindsets? Um, I know everyone has different experiences, and again, at different points in their career, of this type of behavior. I feel like I've been quite lucky in my career where I've had a lot of male allies, and people who have been able to potentially, kind of stick up for me, or if they see a situation that maybe shouldn't happen, or maybe I'm not comfortable with, and they would absolutely kind of support me in that. So I think that is important. If you can find those, then that's a way to potentially, kind of avoid some of those situations. Like, I think it's something that I suppose maybe as females that we deal with all of the time. Use your network, talk to others about it. If you're having a bad experience potentially in work in your team, and this is something that you're dealing with on a daily basis, I think, leadership management really should take action at that point. And I think in most companies, the hope is that, especially these days, that would actually happen. So I think it does come back to just talk about it. Try to find those male allies, sorry, and then also, a really good close mentor slash, kind of friend that you feel like you can share this with, and have the discussion. Because I think, from a how do we stop this completely, my goal is that we don't talk about it because it's not an issue anymore.
Because it's
Yeah,
not an issue.
yeah,
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 agreed. It
yeah,
disappears. I
yeah,
think if you're good at what you do,
yeah,
just continue being good at what you
yeah,
do. And these things
yeah,
should little by little
yeah,
really go away nowadays. So
exactly,
I hope we're going that direction as well. So
exactly.
thank you, everybody. I hope you had some very interesting conversations. Feel free to go into the chat to give us, your feedback, something you want to share about what you've been discussing. We'll be very happy to share that and read that together. Before we wrap up, I'd just like to remind everyone a couple of things. So first, please remember to fill up the survey. The link is in the chat. We've mentioned We Local in Dublin, on the 23rd and 24th of April next year. Please consider submitting your presentation proposal for coming as a speaker or as a keynote speaker. Again, in the chat, you'll have all the how-tos. That's part of development plans. So just go for it and jump and take the challenge. We also have actually 2 in-person networking events coming up as well. So one in Dublin on the 18th of November in Ireland, one in Krakow in Poland on the 20th of November. So if you're in any of those areas or can travel nearby, again, I've mentioned with Stacy a bit earlier about the development plan, networking and coming and meeting up people, like-minded people or people from different backgrounds is really brilliant. That could be part of, a work activity. So put that on your calendar, take the time and come. You can find details on those on the SWE Europe event page. And I just wanted to also add that Again, Stacy mentioned earlier about when you're young, to how important it is to be mentored, and I just want to re-highlight that SWE has a super cool mentoring program, which can take small time, big time. It got some theme and some core. So go on the website and have a look at that. You don't have to do the mentorship within your company. I just wanted to highlight that again because it's, again, something I really love about SWE. So thank you very much for your time, everyone, and take care. Have a brilliant rest of your day.